Hello everyone, how are you all? Welcome to SD Chess World and I hope you are doing well. Today we will going to see a match between Grandmaster Magnus Carlsen and Grandmaster Fabiano Caruana in Norway Chess 2018 round 1. But before going to it, don't forget to subscribe the channel and hit that bell icon. And now you are done that, let's go for it. So Magnus has a white pieces here and Fabiano Caruana has a black pieces. This is the match of round 1 Norway Chess 2018. So here Carlsen started with e4 and definitely Caruana replied with e4 expecting better of defense. But here Carlsen goes for bishop to c4, so Caruana replied with knight to f6, the Berlin defense, and d3. Now the standard moves are here, that is c6, d5, so expected c6. Here knight to f3, developing knight, attacking on the pawn, and d5 attacking on the bishop. So bishop goes back to bishop to b3, and here bishop to d4 check. Now why this check? If here white develop with this c3 attacking on this bishop, c3, bishop goes back to d6, and now this knight can't develop over this c3, which is a natural square for the knight. So here Carlsen goes for bishop to d2 and Fabi takes with bishop takes on d2 and knight d takes on d2. After that a3 attacking over this bishop, so c3. Now if this pawn is pushed, then bishop can take here, knight b2 d7, and here e takes on d5 and c takes on d5. Here white castles and black castles. After that rook to e1 and rook to e8. And now you can see that black has this beautiful two pawns in the center. Also white has two pawns to defend it. Knight to f1 was played, maneuvering the knight either to take it on this g3 or e3 square. Here a b5, and next move will be this a4 attacking on the bishop, and bishop have to retreat. So Carlsen replied with a4, now attacking on the pawn. So b4 played by Fabi. And here is the exchange, c takes on b4 and a takes on b4. After that knight to e3 was played. Now these two knights are attacking on this two pawn, mainly this knight is attacking on this d5 pawn. So bishop to b7, now supporting this pawn. This pawn is attacked by the bishop and knight, also it is supported by this bishop and knight. Here d4 attacking on this pawn, and taking this pawn is not a good option because queen takes this pawn and this queen get a very beautiful square in the center. So Fabi goes for e4 attacking over the knight, and here Carlsen develops the knight to e5 and sacrificing the pawn over here because knight takes on e5, d takes on e5 and rook takes on e5. But by sacrificing here Carlsen gets this queen to d4. Now this queen has a really good square over here. Now this queen is stopping this pawn, also attacking over this b4 pawn which is unprotected. Also for this time it is attacking on the rook. So here rook to e7, now here rook to c1, and if you can see that this pawn is unprotected, so white can grab this pawn, but no, if white grab this pawn then definitely this d4 move is really dangerous. It is attacking on the knight, knight can go for this f5 square attacking on the rook, but rook can go for this d7 square, and these two pawns are really difficult to stop. So queen must stay here for this important square, and to grab this pawn over here rook a to c1 was played. Now here plan is to keep this rook on c5 and attacking over this pawn. You can see that this knight, bishop, queen are attacking over this pawn, and there are three defenders over here. So considering this, rook to d7 was played by Fabi, supporting that pawn, and rook e to d1. Now there are 4 attackers and 4 defenders. h6 was played, making space for king, and rook to c5 as per plan. Now there are 5 attackers on this pawn, and white will definitely get that pawn back. But to defend this, rook to a5 was played by Fabi. Now this rook is supported by this queen. So rook takes on a5 and queen takes on a5. Still this pawn has a 4 defender and 4 attackers. After this h3, now making space for king, and king to h7 was played. This is the good move for the safety of the king, but this king will make difficulty for Fabi at the end of the game, you will see. rook to c1 was played. Now the plan is to go for this c5 square, attacking on this pawn, also attacking on the queen, and defending this pawn over here is really difficult. To avoid this, rook to c7 was played, supported by this queen, and this is kind of one of the inaccurate move, what we can say, because for this movement black is doing a really great. Here rook takes on c1 and queen takes on c1. After that, queen takes on b4, and now you can see if black pushes this pawn, queen can easily capture this, and there is no pressure over there. But thing is, Fabi gets this open c file and going for queen to c1 check, and now bishop to d1, defending it, supported by this knight, and there is bishop to a6, now going for this e2 square, so that harassing this bishop over here, and queen goes to queen to d4, really good square for this queen. Also observing thing that white has this 2 pass pawn, and queen is really doing great job here. It is defending that 2 pawn, also supporting this knight, also supporting this bishop over here, and still stopping this pawn on d5. So really good square for the queen over here. Here bishop to e2 was played, and now taking on the bishop, and king to h2. Now this bishop can move, but here Fabi takes that bishop takes on d1, and knight takes on d1. And here Fabi goes for queen to c7 check, and after that king to g1, and queen to c1 back, pinning this knight over here. After that b4, now pushing this pawn for the promotion, and this pawn is now supported by the queen, and there is definitely a5 is coming, and you can see that this knight is stuck over here. It can't develop due to its own pawn, and also this g4 square is not feasible for it. And going on, this d7 square is not good, because after this a5 there is no square to develop for this knight. So to develop it, Fabi decided to sacrifice the pawn. It goes for e3, so f takes on e3, and knight goes for e4. Now this pawn is supporting this knight, but this pawn is unprotected over here. So Carlsen goes for queen takes on d5 and knight to d2. Now this knight is under attack, and there is no support here. But now you can see, due to this king position, white can recover. That is, after queen to f5 check, king goes back to king to h8, and now king to g4, supporting this knight over here. After that f5 was played, attacking over the queen, and queen goes to queen to e2, supporting the knight. Knight to e4 by Fabi, and after that queen to e1, and now you can see the queen is supporting this pawn over here, also supporting this knight, and there will be a5 move. And here you can say that this knight to c3 is a good move, but no, because here this queen takes the knight. Of course queen can't take the queen because of this knight, so queen take this knight over here with check. King goes to h2, and here black can grab this a4 pawn here, but white has a counter play over here. White goes to queen to c8 check, king have to go to king to h7, and white will grab the pawn over here with check. King have to go to king to g8, and after that queen to c5, a really good move supporting this 2 pawn, and it's a very good position for white. Considering all this, queen to a1 was played, a5, knight to d6, and queen to d2, attacking over the knight. Knight to c4, now knight is attacking over the queen, and here queen to d4, now still attacking over the knight. And here Fabi goes for queen to c1, and now you can see that queens are supporting their knights, also attacking over them. King to f1 was played, now going for this knight safety, but here Fabi get opportunity to grab a pawn. Knight takes on e3 with check. Of course this knight can't take because it is pinned, so queen takes on e3, and queen takes on d1 with check. King to f2 and queen to c2 check. King to g3, and there is no possible check over here. There is g5 was played, and now preparing this f4 move, but black king is really unsafe over here. Here queen to e5 check, after that king to h7, king to h2, and now king has a really safe square over here. Fabi goes for f4, now controlling this g3 square. Queen to d5. Now you can see that Magnus is going for this f7 square check, and these kings have to go for this h8 square, but Fabi avoided it and go for queen to a4 because he can't afford these 2 pawns. Here queen to f7 check, and king have to go to king to h8 and queen to g6, and now you can see this pawn on h6 is definitely going to fall. So here Fabi goes for queen takes on b4 and queen takes on h6 check, king to g8 and queen takes on g5 check, king to h7 and queen to h5 check. Here king to g7 and queen to g5 check, and after that king to h7. Fabi don't bother for draw here. If here Carlsen repeat this move on queen to h5, then it is going to be a 3-point repetition and it's draw. So here he pushes h4. After this queen to d6, now ready to push this pawn ahead with a check. Here Carlsen goes for queen to h5 check, king to g7, queen to g5 check, king to h7 and h5, and Fabi get opportunity to push this pawn over here, so he goes for f3 check, and Magnus defend with g3, and Fabi goes for f2, and now you can see this pawn is going to for promotion in one move. So how you can stop? You can stop it with this move, queen to f5 check, and king have to move, and you can grab this pawn over here. But world champion goes for queen to g6 check, and now Fabi can't take this queen over here. If he takes the queen, then definitely h takes on g6 with check, king have to take this pawn and king to g2, and after this pawn is not going to be promoted, and stopping this pawn on a file is impossible. So white is completely winning over here. So for this position Fabi goes for king to h8, and now sacrificing the queen over here. Here queen takes the queen on d6 and f1, there is a queen on the board, and now white has a 3 pawn on the board, and Fabi is only pushing for this pawn on a file, because if he grab it, then stopping this 2 pawn with the help of king is going to be a possible thing. Here queen to h6 check and king to g8, queen to e6 check, king to h8, and here Carlsen can repeat, so queen to e3, and after this queen to b5 was played, attacking on the pawn, queen to c3, now supporting the pawn with a check, and king to h7, and after that g4, and here king can go for this safety of this 2 pawn. Queen to d5, now considering if this pawn is pushed, then if a6, then queen goes for check, king to h3, and here Fabi can take this pawn, but definitely this is not going to be happen. Here world champion goes for queen to c7 check, king to g8, king to g3, and queen to e6. Now still aiming on this a6 square, avoiding this pawn to push, but Magnus makes this happen with the check. Queen to d8 check, king to h7, queen to d3 check, and king have to move, and it is supporting this a6 move. So king to h8, and now a6, this pawn only need 2 square, so Fabi goes for queen to e5 check and king to h3. After that queen to a1, and still keeping eye over here, and Magnus goes for queen to d8 check, king to h7, queen to e7 check, and king to h6, and queen to e3 check, supporting this a7 square. Also there is check, and Carlsen goes for a7, and on this position Caruana Fabiano resigns the game, because this pawn is definitely going to be promoted, and stopping this is there is no option. He can't go for the repetitive checks because this king is safe on h3. So really nice game played by Magnus Carlsen, and 2 games losing in the tournament. First game in Blitz, and second in the Classic. Dream making for Fabi, but he's a really awesome player, and we will see what will happen in this tournament. So I hope you like this video. If yes, then go ahead, hit the like button and share this video to your friends. Also don't forget to subscribe the channel. To subscribe, hit that red circle. You can join me on Facebook, Google+, Twitter. You just have to search SD Chess World, and you can watch my previous videos over here. Thank you so much for watching this, and I will see you in the next one.